Hey everybody, Eric here. We're going to talk briefly about drip irrigation today. I've never done it before, but having moved to eastern North Carolina, we have very sandy soil here. I think it's finally time we do something a little bit different. I had lived in upstate New York before, and the water requirements were not as strong. Sometimes I would water once a week, but we usually got a fair amount of rain. The difference up there, we had clay soil, so we had a pretty high holding capacity for our plants. Here in eastern North Carolina, we're just a couple miles from the ocean. It's pure sand. I don't know if you can see it in this video itself. I don't spend a lot of time on my grass, as you can probably tell, but it's 100% sand. So even with amendments of compost and things like that, we lose water and nutrients pretty quickly through the sandy soil. So I've been looking at drip irrigation for a long time now, even going back to New York just for convenience. I didn't know what kind of system to get, and so finally I spent some time and wrote everything down. My bushes are grown on Fortuniana, so we have pretty big spacing in between. I'm planting 5 feet on center, and this is a diagram of my beds. My master plan is to have about 42 roses, but you'll notice on this plan there's a lot of room in between the beds, 20 feet, 21 feet. We have septic to be concerned with, but you'll notice my planting. I mentioned 5 feet on center. Here's Zach Nobles. This is Jewel Grace. Lots of room in between them. They'll continue to get bigger, and with Fortuniana rootstock growing a big bush and having a very fibrous root system, I wanted a lot of space in between these plants and not have to worry about competition. With that said, a lot of space in between the drip emitters, so I had to order a lot of tubing. If you're local in North Carolina, can't say enough about Core Farm Supply. We will put a link in the video. Ozzy comes down to our Rose Society in April, and I usually order fertilizers from him. I got most of the tubing, 200 feet to be exact, from him, the smaller drip lines from him, kind of the big stuff from him. And then for the emitters, I settled on a rose shrubler. That's what most people seem to be happy with, so I ordered a bunch of those. And then the other thing I needed was a pop-up conversion kit. I have a watering system for the lawn itself, and it's on a nice timer. So what I did was I went and I marked out all our zones, and one zone only had 2 pop-up heads on them right here back toward the back of the yard. So that's where they're marked with the flags. I'm going to start the drip system and then use that lawn system as my timing and to really get the water out. So because of that, the one that only had 2 pop-up heads on it, I'm going to put a cap on one, so that will work out well. Cap that off. Then on the other one, I've got this conversion kit, and I'll let you know how this works. If it works the way it's supposed to, it's got a filter in it, it has a pressure regulator, it will turn that pop-up head into a drip head, and then from that you run your main line. From off of those, you run your small drip line. Off of those, you have your shrublers. So the advantage I saw is I'm pretty far from my water source. I've got a shallow well pump that came with the house that irrigates the lawn, but you're talking many hundred feet from the house itself to the rose garden. But that's all underground already. It already has a nice hunter timer, and then at the back of the yard will be where the drip starts, and that's where I'll run the lines to the rose beds itself. Again, the goal is 42 roses. Doesn't sound like a lot. We lost some. You may see some blank spots in my garden. That's from Hurricane Florence. We're going to be replanting those areas soon. So 42 is not a lot, but as I widen out a little bit here, it's a long run. Partly because, again, I'm planting 5 feet on center, and then partly right here in the middle is our septic field. So I didn't want to mess with that, especially if we ever needed a repair. I didn't want to have to mess with the roses. So I'm not much of an installer, so I'm not going to be recording this part. Once hopefully it all works out, I'll let you know. Any tips I've learned in the comments below. Do you use drip irrigation? What system do you use? Any helpful tips for others? Once we get this up and running, again, I'll let you know our experience here with it.